People are still getting poisoned with these shots. We have found 1,575 patients that presented to the emergency room following their COVID vaccine and were not reported to VAERS. Each case, each person is $13,000 at a minimum for a fine. The government has a program that's supposed to help them, but they have rejected 98% of claims. The average reimbursement is about $4,000. Our government has abandoned the vaccine injured. Breaking free from the system was the best thing I ever did. They did try to publicly shame me, destroy me. They sent out a call to arms against doctors who were spreading misinformation during the pandemic. They sent letters to every medical board and told them to go after doctors for speech. We're suing the Federation of State Medical Boards, and we're suing 6 individual state medical boards and their primary officers. That includes the Texas Medical Board, because they went after us for our speech. I'm also going to sue the Texas Medical Board for violating my due process rights. When they attack you, my first instinct is to punch back even harder. We're going after the head of the snake on that.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of You're the Voice. Today, we're going to talk with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. And let me give you a quick intro before we start. So medicine was once built on trust between a doctor and a patient. During COVID, that relationship was replaced by centralized rules, enforced consensus, and silenced dissent. My guest today is Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, a board-certified physician, ENT, in Houston, Texas, who treated thousands of COVID patients in a direct care setting while openly challenging centralized medical authority, censorship in healthcare, and the loss of clinical judgment. Her profile on X says, kept 6,000 plus COVID-19 patients out of the hospital, sued the FDA for spreading misinformation, and won. In November 2021, Houston Methodist Hospital suspended her clinical privileges, citing unprofessional behavior and the spread of misinformation harmful to the community. Bowden, who maintained all her comments were backed by clinical experience, resigned shortly after. The Texas Medical Board filed a complaint against her, alleging standard of care violations and unprofessional conduct. This conversation, the one we're going to have today, is about what happens when science stops being questioned, power becomes centralized, and trust breaks, and what it will take to rebuild it. Enjoy the show, and please like, share, and subscribe to help us beat the suppression of the algorithms, because we're quite suppressed in some of the platforms. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of You're the Voice. I have the honor of being here with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. Hey, Mary, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm
nice
very
to finally
good.
talk.
Yes, finally. Thank you so much for making it happen. I am grateful for the work you have been doing. I've been admiring you from afar, like many, many people, for many years. So kudos for all this time that you've been in the front line, taking the hits, and you know, I definitely did not go through what you're going through, but I can identify with some of the censorship and the silencing and the attacks, and it's not easy and people don't know. So I really salute you for being able to stand in front of the beast, in front of those powers that just want to shut you down or stop you or slow you down. I know it takes immense powers. So first of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, well, it didn't even feel like a choice, but you know, when they attack you, I don't know, my first instinct is to punch back even harder. And unfortunately, it just, you know, it just has, nothing's changed, right? I mean, we've been at this now for 5 years and people are still getting poisoned with these shots. I'm still fighting the medical board, but I have hope because I really think, at least in the public eye, the tide has turned. Policy has not changed, but in the public eye, it's changing. And I have some exciting things this year that I hope will bring some, accountability and I like to say retribution, at least in the courts. So I have hope.
And I do think that things are changing. It's just that when we're in it, it's so hard to see the change. And maybe the change is slow and it's small and it's not as fast as big as we want it to be. So for us, it's like, damn it, it needs to flip, and it doesn't flip. It's gradual. And I remember seeing you with Dr. Cruz on Danny's podcast. And after that chat, I listened to Dr. Cruz calling you a savage. You're one of his savages. He uses this name for those he thinks are the ones that really go for it, and they would put everything on the line in order to help humanity see things and do things differently. And I wholeheartedly agree with him. Just keep pushing, because it's incredible that you are doing this. You are really, really powerful.
Well, thank you. I feel
You're
like
welcome.
most of my fight is just on X, posting on X, and sometimes that feels like you're just spinning a wheel.
I know.
But like I said, we have some lawsuits coming up probably, and we have some things coming up that, in the courts, I think we can make a difference. And I think, we will be exposing a lot of fraud coming up. We have figured out a way to find hospitals who have not reported patients to VAERS. So hospitals they signed an agreement with the government that as part of it's called the COVID-19 vaccine provider agreement. And they were required to report to VAERS any patient, no matter what reason. They stub their toe, they show up at the hospital. Yeah. If they show up at the hospital after they'd gotten a COVID shot, they were required to report it to VAERS. Now, we can access Medicare data. In fact, anybody can if they purchase it. It's not like some hidden, it's available to the public. And we can compare that data with the VAERS data and figure out if hospitals have reported. So Houston Methodist Hospital, which was the first hospital in the country to mandate the COVID shots. So far, we have found 1,575 patients that presented to the emergency room following their COVID vaccine and were not reported to VAERS. And that's just tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
And we can do this every hospital in the country. And the statute of limitations doesn't end until 6 years following the end of the EUA. So we have plenty of time. There's a big group of lawyers who are interested in this. So that is going to be a big project for 2026. Which
wow, that's amazing.
And that's fraud. So if this is a fraud case, if they violate the terms of that agreement, and each person is $13,000 at a minimum for a fine.
Each person that they did not report?
Right. Hopefully, but, that could, we're just looking at Medicare data, 1,500 patients. We're not even looking at all the insured patients, uninsured patients. So it could be a big blow to hospitals.
And then that money can help those that were injured. Ever find yourself needing cash but refusing to sell your Bitcoin? That's real life for many Bitcoiners, because most Bitcoin sales aren't financial decisions, they're liquidity decisions. And that's exactly what Ledn solves. Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed lending. They've issued over $10 billion in loans since 2018 with a perfect track record for protecting client assets. Here's what makes Ledn different. With their custodied loans, your Bitcoin collateral is not lent out to generate interest. No credit checks, no monthly payments, and no penalties for early repayments. You apply in minutes and you repay whenever you want. Ledn also publishes proof of reserves reports every 6 months with full transparency. So if your capital is in Bitcoin, but your expenses are not, you still have options. Ledn lets you unlock liquidity without selling your Bitcoin. Learn more at ledn.io/Efrat. That's ledn.io/Efrat. You're the Voice is brought to you by Trezor, the original Bitcoin hardware wallet company pioneering the development of self-custody for crypto assets since 2013, empowering individuals with an open source device, enabling beginners and experts to easily and securely hold their coins. I find my Trezor super easy to use and recommend it to my friends and family. Enjoy my 5% discount on Trezor products by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code FLAT.
And then that's another thing we're working on is a clinical trial in the US. I don't know if you saw, I interviewed Dr. Kevin McCairn last weekend with Lindsay, the nurse who's injured, and she's trying to fly to Japan to get this treatment because our government has abandoned the vaccine injured. And he has found something. I mean, they've only done it in about 6 patients. So, it's still very early and experimental, but he has found a way to filter the blood. His theory, and it holds true from what I can see, is that these patients, both from the virus, but also more so from the vaccine, are developing amyloid. And amyloid is a misfolded protein. It deposits in the tissue. It causes destruction and gums up the tissue and destroys function, and especially in the brain, it can be a big problem. So they figured out a way to filter the blood, give stem cells to clear the amyloid. And he's seen an improvement clinically, but also when he examines the blood for amyloid, he's seen it clear. He's seen markers of inflammation in the blood go down. So that we're trying to bring to the United States to do clinical trials to try to help the injured, because there's just not a lot of options that are really, truly effective.
Kevin was on my podcast as well. We did a whole episode for 2 hours going through his presentation about the contamination of the jabs. It was amazing to just see the amounts of, you used the word fraud before. This is the biggest scam ever. And the fact that the FDA actually knew at one point when they informed them, and they still didn't do anything, and they protected the pharma companies. We have a group of people like you and Kevin and Jessica and all the amazing doctors that are just pushing through, and scientists to try and no one else is doing that. No one else is looking at the products and the vaccine injured and trying to break down what we can do to help them. It's devastating to see the situation with the adverse reactions in the vaccine injured.
Yeah. I mean, I see the injured in my clinic almost daily, so I'm constantly reminded of it. And unfortunately, the government has a program that's supposed to help them, the CICP, but they have rejected 98% of claims. The average reimbursement that has been doled out is about $4,000. There were 2 big awards, but apart from that, the awards have been very small. And we're basically outside the statute of limitations. You only have a year to file for benefits under that program. So, most of these people are out of luck. And there are organizations, React 19, Vaccine Safety Research Foundation, the Wellness Company. They are all in IMA, Independent Medical Alliance, 4 organizations that are trying to help the injured. But we really need the NIH to step in and deal with the problem that they allowed to happen.
And does Jay Bhattacharya, is he aware of that? I mean, is he doing something to help in that front?
I don't know. I was trolling him yesterday about that, and somebody piped in and said, "Oh, they are doing something." And so I messaged her privately to get details, and then I haven't heard those details yet. So I don't know. I haven't heard anybody from the vaccine injured, any of that community say that they're helping.
And by the way, Dr. Bowden, when people come to your clinic with harms or damages from those jabs, are they aware that it's from that, or they don't make the connection, or is it part this, part that?
Yeah, I see a lot of people that are worried that what happened, their health problem, is related to the COVID shot. And I'd say the vast majority, they probably are. It's difficult to prove because there aren't a lot of tests that, what I look at is spike protein antibody level. And what I found in the patients that got the shots, who are symptomatic, the levels tend to be about 10 times higher, the antibody levels, than the people that did not get the shot. So I'm seeing about an average of 1,300 in the people that never got the shots and about 13,000 in the people that did.
Wow.
Which is not normal. That level of discrepancy, especially years after getting the shots. But a lot of it is just history, timing. Like, one patient that sticks out in my mind is she was a marathon runner. She's late 40s, early 50s, got the shot. Now her right arm where she got the shot will not stop shaking. It's been 4 years and she's been to multiple doctors and, blown off. They can't figure out what's going on. She asked me to send a referral to the Mayo Clinic, and my nurses accidentally wrote on there COVID vaccine injury, and they refused to see her. So we rewrote the referral and said right arm shaking, and now they'll see her.
Oh my God, this is incredible. It's incredible. I heard you say on Joe Rogan that you're afraid of AI and what it's going to bring. I mean, this is going to sound generalistic. I know you're not afraid of all AI and what it's going to bring, but in the context of what we are talking about now, the other day I was chatting with the AI about some topic, and he refused to answer me because the topics I wanted to talk about were not allowed. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. What? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Where the reality we're stepping into, where you cannot talk about certain things with the internet, with the open internet.
Well, maybe AI can come up with an antidote to these shots. That might be the only thing it's useful for.
Yeah, maybe. Well, when I have a friend who's a doctor who wanted to stay anonymous, and I was kind of consulting with her before our conversation now about some things that we can talk about. And she said that for her, it's such a dilemma to try and decide where to dedicate her energy, like breaking down the centralized systems from within and fighting that, or building new decentralized systems. And her assessment is that we have to work on both simultaneously, but it is hard to do both. And she's not sure that one person can do both. Maybe one person needs to decide that I'm going to focus on this and the other is going to build something new. But as a medical doctor and in general as a human being, we are made to feel small and defenseless. Defenseless is the right word. And precisely through the public execution via lawfare of people like you, like, she was saying, like Dr. Bowden, she's like, they're trying to make an example out of her. So watching her makes most doctors just keep their head down and follow orders. While she is a medical doctor, she thinks exactly like you. And she's also a member of some of the organizations that you mentioned before. But she did not do what you did. How do you, what's the message that you have to other doctors in the United States that are maybe listening to us, or people that work in the medicine profession?
Yeah, it's a David versus Goliath, and trying to break down the Goliath is very hard. I mean, I'm still fighting, not because, the medical board issued me a public reprimand, which, whatever, but I'm fighting it because it's important, because it sets a precedent, right? They did try to publicly shame me, destroy me, to try to silence other doctors. So I'm fighting so that I can be proven correct, and to try to give other people the courage to set a precedent that they can't get away with doing that. But for me, it was just, everything was in my face. I was seeing everything firsthand, and it was just, I was actually pretty conservative in what I said initially. I think that has changed. I think doctors could get away with a lot more now than they could have 4 years ago. And I'm not taking credit for that. I just think that's because there have been multiple doctors that have taken arrows to tell the truth. So, speaking, I think, it's a lot safer now than it used to be. And the more people that speak up, the easier it gets. So I hope that more people will speak up. I stepped out of the system right before the pandemic, I started a clinic that is, I call it third party free, because I don't contract with the hospital. I don't contract with the government. I don't contract with insurance companies. So the only people I work for are my patients. The buck stops with me. And that changes the way you practice medicine. It really does. If my patient,
you're breaking the incentive structure.
Yeah. And if my patient does poorly, it really comes back to me. It's not, when you go to these big practices and, if a patient ends up doing poorly, if the outcome is bad, the blame gets diffused, right? But I am very invested in my patients doing well. That's how I get job satisfaction. And most, I do think most doctors start off that way, that they want people to get better, and they derive job satisfaction from that. But breaking free from the system was the best thing I ever did. I mean, I love this model of practicing. I get very triggered when the other model seeps in my way. Like, I'll have patients that need a prescription, and they'll demand prior authorization for it. That sort of stuff is not in my model. And it reminds me of why I left that system. So I would encourage people, I could probably make more money if I were in the system, but I'm a lot happier doctor out of the system. And your patient, you also attract a certain type of patient. The patients aren't as lazy. They do their research. They're invested in their health. They don't run to you for every little thing. When you're not paying for the service, people tend to sort of overuse it. But when insurance is not involved, people really, they come to you when they really need to. So it's a win-win.
I love it. This is true sovereignty, like, creating your own independent sovereign system that has some interface with the centralized system. It cannot have zero interface when people need to go to a hospital or buy medicine, like you said, but you are taking away most of the friction points, which is calling for a lot of the doctors today to start considering the same kind of model. That is true sovereignty in my eyes. So yeah, I definitely love that. Well, I wanted to ask you, what in your lawsuit against the federal health authorities didn't feel just legal, but like more philosophical? What did the case expose about who really controls medicine today? What did it expose about the dynamics of power or the incentive structure?
Are you talking about the FDA lawsuit?
Yeah.
So we sued the FDA over their misinformation that they posted on social media and on their website, where they told the public and they told doctors you can't prescribe ivermectin for COVID, and they told patients not to take ivermectin for COVID. And they crossed a red line. So their job is to approve medications and move on. I mean, if their safety issues come up, they can go there, but they're not allowed to tell doctors how to use the medicine, and they're not allowed to tell patients how to use medications. And unfortunately, they're kind of doing that now with the hormone situation. I mean, everybody's all happy about that, but they really are sort of overstepping their bounds with hormones. They're not really supposed to dive into the clinical uses of drugs. But that's what they did during the pandemic with ivermectin. And so we sued them, and we basically just put them back in their lane. They had to take down the misinformation. Unfortunately, I don't think it made a huge amount of difference. I mean, it did set a precedent, but I really think they need to come out now and make a statement saying that ivermectin is safe. It's definitely used in humans. It's on the World Health Organization's list of essential medications. It's won a Nobel Prize in medicine. And I want them to make it over the counter, because it's literally safer than Tylenol. And people are buying it from India. They're buying it from Mexico. They're going to the feed store to get it, which must be safe, because I haven't heard any issues. But I mean, this is America. We shouldn't have to go to the feed store to get our medications. So it was huge, because it's very hard to sue the government and actually win. So that was a big battle. And
you also wrote a book about that, right?
Well, that was part of it. Yeah. The book is sort of my survival story during the pandemic. It's sort of, but it's not done. I'm going to have to do a sequel when I take everybody down because I'm still in the middle of it.
Can't wait.
But hopefully the sequel will be the triumph story. The first part is basically just how I survived.
I want to introduce you to Abundant Minds because they take a very different approach to Bitcoin mining. Most people buy Bitcoin, but the smart ones mine it straight into self-custody. With Abundant Minds, you can do it without giving up your privacy. Abundant Minds was founded by Bo and Christine Marie Turner, a couple who lost more than $500,000 to providers making empty promises. Instead of walking away, they built a company that raises the industry standard and puts client first, and that's why I like them. With Abundant Minds, you own your machines. They never touch your Bitcoin, never skim a revenue share, and you choose your own mining pool. Their customer care is unusual. Clients speak to a real person for self-custody education, privacy consulting, and even visiting their site. They serve clients from around the world, but US investors specifically enjoy a big tax benefit and 100% bonus depreciation. This is more than just mining Bitcoin. It's about freedom, privacy, and purpose. You can book a free strategy call, see how it works, and mine some of your first Bitcoin for free with a special offer for my audience. Learn more on abundantminds.com/Efrat. About doctors and how they're trained to think critically, and that all stopped, during COVID. I think these are really symptoms of the fiat system that we live in, where they can print money and they can buy everyone and everything with the money they print, and the pharma has so much power because of, again, how it dictates a lot of the money channeling to the different media or lobby or government, etc. So what do you think about doctors that are part of that structure and that they're stopping to actually do their work, to think critically and think for the better of their patients, and instead are becoming just tools, pawns for those money providers?
Well, I think part of it is the typical doctor, their personality, they're sort of wired for conformity, because to get into medical school, you have to be a straight A student, you have to be well behaved, you have to be well liked. You cannot be, it's hard to be a rebel and get into medical school. So
yeah.
Then when you get into medical school and you're in there, I was 9 years of training. So it's like, I imagine it's very similar to the military. You stay in line, you stay in a lane, you don't deviate. You have to, you have no control over when you eat or sleep or have time off. You have zero control over that. So you are molded in your training. And I think
that is really similar to the military.
Yeah. You are, you have a certain personality, then you're molded, and then you go on and you're employed. So you're working for most physicians now are employed. They're not self-employed.
Yeah.
They're working for somebody else. And that is another factor. So
at what point did you discover that this molding was not for you, or that you need to break out of it?
Yeah, looking back, I conformed, but I was not. I remember in residency getting mad because they were waking patients up at 4 a.m. to do labs, and then we would round on them at like 5:30, and the labs wouldn't be back. And so I marched down to the lab. Why are you waking people up if the labs aren't even back? In retrospect, most interns would not have said anything. So I was a little bit more outspoken than my colleagues, which sometimes got me in trouble. But I think it was, I practiced in the traditional model for a while, and then I took time off because I had kids, and I wasn't even sure I was going to go back. But I just decided if I go back, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to be beholden to these third parties. And it was risky, but it wasn't about the money for me. I just wanted to be a happy doctor. And so that's what drove me. I had I had the luxury. I didn't have to work. I wanted to work, and money wasn't the factor. And so that drove me to a different model. And it's been very satisfying.
Yeah, I hope people take some inspiration out of that. How do you see the work that Robert Kennedy Jr. is doing in regards to that? Do you think that he's delivering on his promises? Do you think there is still hope from him? What is your opinion about his functioning since he came into office?
Well, I was very frustrated on New Year's when they were bragging about everything they had accomplished. And then they were talking about the future, and it was all about food and nothing about mRNA. And, if you look on the CDC's website, a large number of people are still getting these shots. 42 million Americans, 5.5 million children have gotten the latest version of the COVID shot. That's huge. I mean, it's a cold. I don't ever worry about my COVID. I don't ever see COVID anymore. But if I did, I would not worry about them landing in the hospital. There's no need to take this risk. And so I was very, very agitated on New Year's when I saw that they're basically just moving on. And that was a huge disappointment.
I'm in, where was it? It was in New York, but also here in Florida. I'm in Florida at the moment, and was walking around in one of the pharmacies, and there's this recording saying, get your vaccines for flu and for COVID here. It's very cheap or whatever. You don't need a doctor's prescription or anything. Just come and get the vaccines. And I'm like, wow, seriously? And in a pharmacy, that kind of, like, it's still out there. It drives me crazy. And I'm in Florida, where it was supposed to be, better. And what Ron DeSantis was doing, and what's his name, the Surgeon General,
Joe Ladapo.
Yeah, Ladapo. So they were the best probably in the nation to resist it, but it's still happening.
Oh, I talked to a patient this morning who his PCP pressured him into getting a COVID shot, his fourth shot, maybe I think it was in October or early November. And now he is just in agony. His entire body is in pain. He's on high dose steroids. He had a severe reaction. He did not want to get it. So it's still a problem. Problem is it doesn't really matter what the government says. They've eased off the recommendations. They made some modifications, but it really doesn't matter because the doctors are still pushing it. The pharmacies are still pushing it.
Yeah. It's insane. Yeah, I think that's how we started talking on X the other day, because I was sharing the mortality rates in Israel. I mean, the demographics, how it's in decline for the first time since the 50s. It's gone down less than 1% growth this year, and normally it's 2 point something. So 2025 was the first year where you're seeing negative growth in population. And it's crazy that most of the population in Israel is not aware that it's because of that. Obviously, there are other reasons. I'm not saying there are not. We do have wars, we do have post-trauma, we have a lot of shit going on, but the population in Israel was highly vaccinated, and people are not aware. So when you start talking about this, like this specific data that I've put have created so much noise in Israel because everyone is so afraid to make the linkage between the jabs to that really dire statistics, that when the moment it comes out, they start coming up with other reasons and excuses for why it's happening. And so one of the people in my community had requested that I asked you if you have any tips for how do you make someone aware of the potential damages, like in a way that they would just start listening so they can start doing something to detox themselves or find some cures. How do you approach it? How do you speak to those people who are so afraid to make the connection?
Yeah, I think you have to ease into it. You don't just, hit them across the face with the news. And that's hard. I mean, I think you have to have somebody that really trusts, a trusted relationship. Like I've had some patients come to me who were a little bit reluctant, but their family members talk to them and urge them to come see me. But I think that's the most effective. You've got somebody that you trust,
Yeah.
and ease into it, not just, try to scare the hell out of them, ease into it, and,
Yeah, maybe
breadcrumbs of information.
don't send them that graph with the
Right. I'm curious. I didn't read the article because you said it needed translation, but what did the article say? Was it?
Well, I'll tell you. I have it open here, so let me see. The article said that for the first time since the 50s, it's the lowest record in population growth. The low growth is the result of an increase in the number of deaths, a continuing decline in fertility, and a rise in number of people leaving Israel versus number of immigrants. So they're specifically talking about decline in fertility, which is interesting because Israel, as you may know, has a demographic that is consistent of religious families that have many kids. There are Arabs, there are Christians, there are, and obviously majority of Jews. But the decline in fertility was across the board. It is very weird, concerning. Like these are things that you normally would not see. And it's across all the different sectors. So, and everyone got vaccinated. So there was no
control group.
Yeah. I mean, I was a control group. Me, a few thousands crazy like me. Actually, we were a big group. We were much, much bigger than what people wanted the population to actually know. And we were in the streets protesting about it and making noise about it as much as we could. But the media was completely silencing our attempts to bring it to the awareness of the population because they didn't want people to know what we're saying. So people thought that we are a very small minority, but in fact we were a big group, a relatively big group. I know because we were in the streets and I saw thousands upon thousands of people. And normally demonstrations, you get like a specific chunk of population that is a representation of the whole population, statistically speaking. So it was a relatively big group, and we were very active on social media as well. And they now started in Israel like a new cycle to try and get people to vaccinate again for flu and COVID, which was very surprising. We didn't think about that. We didn't think that that's going to happen again. But they started also propaganda on the legacy media, which is not surprising, but come on, like seriously now, like 5 years later, 4 years later, and good luck with that. Whoever is still falling for it, whatever, maybe it's their fate.
Does your health department list the statistics like the CDC in terms of uptake of the COVID shot? So
I didn't follow. I need to check, but I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so. Not the same way they did in 2020 and 21. They did show that there is a general decline in people who are taking vaccines in general, not just COVID. And that was very concerning. And they do, articles about that and talk about that a lot. And because of that, they're trying to, again, propagate people to jump on the wagon again. And so if the trust is gone, how do we return trust to physicians, to doctors again? There's such a big hit that doctors took with this. And there are some great doctors out there, just like you and many others, both in every country that I saw, that there are some brave ones who are standing for truth. How do we reclaim that trust?
Well, we need...
I'm personally afraid to go to doctors today.
I know. Believe me, I am too. I've got some things that probably should get looked at. I'm just not going to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, COVID was a litmus test, and I don't believe that you had to get everything right from the very start to be trusted, but the willingness to change your mind and admit that you might not have gotten everything right is fine with me, but it's a litmus test. And I guess, if you're concerned, okay, is my doctor, can they be trusted? There are easy things you can ask them. I mean, you can what do you think about the COVID shot? And what do you think about masks? And if I get COVID, would you prescribe me ivermectin? It's a very easy way to weed them out. Unfortunately, it might be a hard hunt, but
it's better to do that than going to the wrong doctor, in my opinion.
I mean, I guess, in an emergency situation, you're just going to have to, you'll probably be fine. But if you're trying to establish a long-term relationship with a doctor, then I think it's important.
I agree. I saw today that Robert Malone blocked you. What's the thing with him? What's going on with him?
He doesn't like how outspoken I've become since Kennedy has taken office. It basically boils down to that I'm just not a team player. I'm being too outspoken, too controversial. He came out on a podcast in August and said that I'd gone off the rails. And he doesn't like the fact that the wellness company is sponsoring my podcast. I'm not working for them. They're just
a sponsor,
paying for advertising on my podcast. And apparently now I'm a grifter because of that. And, I punched back a little bit, but not that bad. I mean, basically this morning I saw a post where he was advertising a conference he was going to, and the tagline was inventor of mRNA. And I'm kind of curious why the inventor of mRNA is not working on an antidote. I mean, that seems like a logical, we're all trying desperately to help the vaccine injured. He's writing Substacks. So I just feel like he could be doing a little bit more. And when I said that, I said, as inventor, I hope you're working on the antidote. That made him mad and he blocked me.
Tired of feeling like your freedom and future are fading away? Do you live in a country with growing inflation, crazy housing prices, weird culture, and a chaotic economy? You're not alone, and my friend Mikkel Thorpe and his team at Expat Money can help. Mikkel is the world's leading expat consultant on a mission to free you from broken systems. He's been an expat for 25 years, lived in 9 different countries, and has helped hundreds of people with second residencies and passports, offshore banking, international investing, and many other essential tools. If you're serious about protecting your wealth and your family, it's not enough to hope things will get better. You need a plan B in another country. The team at Expat Money can help you build it legally, safely, and without wasting years of research. Visit expatmoney.com/eflat and leave your details for a follow-up. In a world hypnotized and sleepwalking towards totalitarian control and digital enforcement, awakened voices rise to inspire change and radiate hope. In December 2024, I had the honor of hosting Professor Matthias Desmet at a conference I produced called New Totalitarian Order. This masterclass is now recorded and available to watch. The conference explores the psychology behind global mass processes, offering a behind-the-scenes look at science, economics, and human potential. It addresses challenging global agendas, mass formation, transhumanism, consciousness, societal change, and the path to transformation. Click the link in the show notes to access 3.5 hours of exclusive presentations, in-depth content, and my fireside chat with Professor Desmet. Use my code EFLAT for 10% off. I hope you find great value in it. Well done for saying that. I salute you. I just want to give you a parallel from where I'm standing. I'm in, as you know, in the Bitcoin industry. So there are various types of nuances going on inside that industry too. And just like you, I speak the truth and I try to show all the different sides of a problem or an issue. So in my last, one of my last keynote presentations in one of the conferences, I spoke out objectively about the risks and the benefits of something that's called stablecoins. And the company that was hosting me for the conference happens to have a stablecoin, and they didn't like what I said. So they didn't really air my presentation and they put all the other speakers' presentations on their channels. They didn't put mine, even though I asked several times. They don't like us saying certain stuff. But, it's okay to question. It's okay to ask the tough questions. If we are not going to do it, who's going to do it?
So I've never heard of stablecoin. What is that?
Stablecoin is so Bitcoin, it's a coin that is scarce and has a fixed supply, and there is nothing else like it. It's its own category. There are many crypto coins, so all those different cryptos that you hear about, and there is a category called stablecoin, and what it is basically a cryptocurrency that is pegged 1-to-1 to the dollar or to any other fiat currency. So euro, dollar, any other fiat currency. But you make a cryptocurrency that the value of that currency is pegged 1-to-1. So $1 equals one stable coin US dollar. And because they hold the same value, you can then mimic the US dollar in the cryptocurrency market. And then you can easily do a lot of transitions between cryptocurrencies into Bitcoin, into fiat, like back and forth between the two worlds. So it has a utility. It has like a certain use case. It has some good things about it, but there are also shortcomings. For example, it's still a centralized entity. So there is a company that issues those coins, meaning that company can be taken over, it can be closed, there are choke points, there are shortcomings about it. And so, I'm saying it all. I'm saying the good things and the bad things. So, that's a stable coin. It's a digital dollar, basically, digital USD. It's related to nanotechnology and the use of our biofields as nodes. And I have heard some people saying that with the vaccines, for example, some of the graphene or the metals that are in the vaccines can also be used to take control over some cells or some of the nanobots in the body remotely or stuff like that. I mean, with where technology is today, I wouldn't be surprised if it's possible to do that. But are you aware of that field at all?
Not a lot. When I interviewed Kevin McCairn, he said he has not found any evidence of graphene in the vaccines. Okay. So, hopefully that's not what's going on. I mean, I'm vaguely aware of that, but haven't really dug into it.
Got it. Okay. I'm continuing to research. It's interesting. I want to know what's going on there. I also want to ask you, so for you, who are some of the good, like quote unquote, good experts that you'd recommend people to follow today? People that you think are worthwhile learning from and getting updated?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. McCullough does a lot of research. He's always posting about different studies that they're doing. I'm very intrigued by what William Mackus is doing. And I don't have a lot of firsthand experience using ivermectin for cancer, but it looks promising. And then, Independent Medical Alliance, I'm part of that organization.
Yep.
I'm part of Vaccine Safety Research Foundation as well. And then React 19 is doing a lot of work to try to help the injured. Yeah, Shannon Joy and I are collaborating on a podcast, and she has no, she's not no hard alliances to anyone. She'll say whatever she thinks. Yeah. For better or for worse. And so she's a great account to follow. But I think, Malone, for the most part, is fine. His approach is different than mine. And I actually I'm really not that upset over all this. It's a little bit silly. I don't think he's an enemy. I just, I think he's kissing the ring, and I'm not willing to do that. So. But I do think he should spend more time working on an antidote. If that's his expertise, he would be a perfect person. And maybe he can join us in these research endeavors that we're trying to do.
That would be amazing. And so in 2026, you were mentioning some legal battles that may be coming up and some new things that you have in your bucket list. Is there anything else you want to share with us that you are planning on working on for the new year? Or maybe even what is your resolution? What are your intentions?
Yeah, well, we were talking earlier about doctors feeling threatened that they're not speaking up because they've been silenced. Well, we're going after the head of the snake on that. The Federation of State Medical Boards is this private entity that somehow has control over all medical boards in the country. So they sent out a call to arms against doctors who are spreading misinformation during the pandemic. They sent letters to every medical board and told them to go after doctors for speech. And so we are suing them, myself and 3 other doctors. We're suing the Federation of State Medical Boards, and we're suing 6 individual state medical boards and their primary officers. That includes the Texas Medical Board, because they went after us for our speech. So that is an exciting lawsuit. I'm also going to sue the Texas Medical Board for violating my due process rights. This fight with them has been going on for over 4 years. The person that oversaw the first hearing that we had, so one of the members of the medical board, Sharon Barnes, she presided over it's called the Informal Settlement Conference. And it's basically a negotiating conference where they say, you tell them your side of the story, they tell you their side of the story, and then they propose a settlement. The person presiding over that was gossiping about me and spreading news stories about me prior to me getting a complaint from the medical board. So she had a bias against me. Yep. I found this out through doing open records requests. She was gossiping about me. And so then she went on to dole out my punishment. But that's just one example of many where things were just not done properly. So I will be suing them. It has not been filed yet, but I'm also suing to, fight the public reprimand that they issued me. So that will go to a state court. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll go to the Supreme Court of Texas.
Wow. Do you even have time to see patients these days?
I see patients almost every day. I feel
amazing.
like you need to just keep your finger on the pulse to know what's going on. So I don't work, a full schedule, but I do try to see patients every day.
Incredible. I can't believe you're going to do so much this coming year. This is truly inspirational. Wow. Mary, you're amazing. Well, I pray to God to give you as much power as you need to continue this battle. And whenever I can support with anything, please let me know. Happy to have you on the show back whenever you want and support you in any way I can. And there are many other people that would do the same. You are super courageous and we owe you a lot. So thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me on. And it was wonderful to meet you finally.
Yes, for me too. Thank you so much. Where should people follow you? Is it on X or anywhere else?
X. And also if YouTube would be wonderful because I am so suppressed on YouTube.
Yes, of course. Me too.
I guess I should consider myself lucky to even be allowed on YouTube, but I'm trying to grow that channel. So it's
okay. So subscribe also. I'll put the link for YouTube and your X. Okay. So I'm going to put all these links in the show notes so people can follow you. Anything else do you want people to know or to be part of? Anything that you want to draw their attention to?
I have an organization called Americans for Health Freedom, and it's to get politicians to simply state that the COVID shot should be pulled off the market. Right. And it can be people running for office or people in office. And so I'm trying to recruit more people onto that. I have about 250 elected officials and I think about 37 candidates so far. So just share that with your politicians.
Beautiful. Is that on your website?
I
will get the link from you.
The website is just americansforhealthfreedom.org.
Great. Excellent. Good. Thank you so much for taking the time, Mary, and I appreciate you very much. And I hope you have a great 2026.
You too. It's the year of retribution.
Yes. Amen. Thanks for being with us. Please take a minute to give this episode a like, a comment, and subscribe or follow. And please share it with your friends so they can also get value and choose to take some positive action in their lives. Till next time.